Welcome to Breakthroughs in Depression and Anxiety, where we're looking for future cures and natural treatments for depression and anxiety. Join Mick Maley, whose mission is to increase knowledge and give hope to those who suffer, as well as spread the word about new treatments, which he hopes will encourage new development and raise money for further research. Mick is not a doctor, and so you should always speak to your doctor first before engaging in treatment. Now, here's your host, Mick Maley.
Hello, this is Mick. Welcome to Breakthroughs in Depression and Anxiety. As I've stated before, I am not a doctor, nor have I aspired to be. Alright, so we're going to do the news first, breakthroughs after. Alright, so it has often been said that walking helps with depression and anxiety. I'm sure you've all heard this before. I started making a habit of walking at least a mile a day about 6 months back, when I started getting some pretty bad anxiety. I got this anxiety out of the blue. I don't know what really happened, but I'd say it lasted about 4 or 5 months. And it's still kind of intermittently coming back, but knock on some wood that not too severely. And I remember when I first started, I would walk just because I couldn't sit still at all. I didn't want to sit still. I wanted to get up, move around. It's like the opposite of being depressed. You just don't want to lay around. So I just go out for long walks, and I think at around 3 or 4 miles I would start to feel so much better. But it probably didn't hurt that I talked a lot with my walking partner the whole time about what I was going through and all my problems, and actually some of the breakthroughs I'm going through, you guys, right now. Anybody know why it is that when you talk to somebody about, specifically when you're feeling really bad, you talk to them about your problems and you just start to feel a bit better? Anyhow, I'd feel good for about an hour or two afterwards. It wasn't anything that was completely permanent, but it did, at least a lot of the time, completely abolish my anxiety, which made me kind of believe in it. So I've read that walking, running, or just aerobic exercise releases feel-good hormones and can serve as a distraction from your depression or anxiety if you're feeling it. In fact, a study from Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin, stated that exercise appeared to be as effective as psychotherapy for moderate depression. Though I don't think I've ever really had proper psychotherapy, not like CBT or anything. I've went in for therapy before, but it just kind of seems like me talking to someone. So even though I haven't had it properly, it's just something I don't really consider to be all that effective. Just, I guess, logically. Has anyone listening had very positive results from something like, say, cognitive behavioral therapy? If so, send me an email. Tell me your story. I'd like to hear it. Alright, so more on this study. People with moderate depression were randomly assigned to either psychotherapy or exercise programs. After a whole year, over 90% of those people who had been assigned the exercise program were no longer depressed. I mean, that's pretty good, 90%. They also stated that half the patients in the psychotherapy group, however, had to come back for further treatment. That does just seem too good to be true, though. 90%? But it's pretty encouraging results. Now, walking seems like a very good habit to keep up with for anyone, but another habit that I kept up with for about 6 months is supposed to be really good for depression as well. It's called meditation. So I kind of first learned about meditation from a book you may have heard of. It's called The Power Now. It's by a man named Eckhart Tolle. I suppose he talks more about the mindfulness in the book, but they kind of go hand in hand. I know when I was listening to it, I do books on tape, so when I was listening to the book, it all seemed way too hippie for me, especially at first. But I guess I kind of got over that. I even got a device called the Muse that uses EEGs to monitor your brain waves while meditating as a way to give feedback on how you're doing. I know this is similar to a study they did with some monks back a while ago, and they took EEGs to their brains. I know they were able to calm down activity, I think, in their left prefrontal cortex, but don't quote me on that. So it has been said that stress damages the brain and can lead to depression and anxiety. Researchers at the University of California, Berkeley, have shown that chronic stress generates long-term changes in the brain. That may explain why people suffering from chronic stress are more prone to mental problems such as anxiety and mood disorders later in their life. Also, quite a few recent studies have found that meditation does actually shape the brain. It corrects damages from stress, enhances connectivity between the two lobes, and even promotes cell growth in key regions that are underdeveloped in people with depression, such as the hippocampus. And that sounds a lot like one of our previous breakthroughs, NSI 189, from I believe it's the very first episode. So that means that meditators are rewiring their emotional reactions and thought patterns to a calmer baseline on a physical level. So, does this make one more resilient to depression? There have been studies that have shown that meditation is more effective than antidepressants in preventing a relapse of depression. And a first of its kind study last year found the practice to be just as effective as one-on-one cognitive behavioral therapy, which we discussed earlier. So we're going to talk more about that study right now. And I'm just going to read it for you here. In spring of 2012, the patients with depression, anxiety, or reactions to severe stress were randomized to either structured group mindfulness treatment with approximately 10 patients per group, or regular treatment, mainly cognitive behavioral therapy. Patients also received a private training program and were asked to record their exercises in a diary. The treatment lasted 8 weeks. General practitioner and mindfulness instructor Ola Schenstrom designed the mindfulness training program and model for training instructors. A total of 215 patients were included in the study. Before and after the treatment, the patients in the mindfulness and regular treatment groups answered questionnaires that estimated the severity of their depression and anxiety. Self-reported symptoms of depression and anxiety decreased in both groups during the 8-week period. There was no statistical difference between the two treatments. So I guess you can save yourself a lot of money by just doing some meditation. Okay, well, so what? So what? Besides that, so what? Well, that finally brings us to our news. Meditation plus exercise combined intensifies recovery from anxiety and depression. I mean, is this really news, though? I mean, if one's good for you, the other one's good for you. Don't you think both of them together would be good or even better for you? So researchers at Rutgers University in New Brunswick, New Jersey, who began to wonder whether, since meditation and exercise on their own improved moods, combined two might intensify the impacts of each. So they recruited 52 men and women, 22 of which have been diagnosed with depression. So the researchers confirmed the diagnosis with their own tests and then asked all of the volunteers to complete a computerized test of their ability to focus while sensors measured electrical signals in their brains. To start the experiment, all the volunteers were taught mindfulness meditation. After they learned this technique, they came in 2 times a week for 8 weeks. Each session was 20 minutes of mindfulness meditation, 10 minutes of walking meditation, and then 30 minutes of moderate aerobic exercise, probably such as maybe jogging or fast walking. The group with depression showed brain cell activity in their prefrontal cortex that was almost identical to the people without depression. They could concentrate much better and hone their attention, attributes that are believed to help reduce that stubborn rumination that is so frequent in people with depression. So they theorized that meditation and exercise may have produced a synergistic effect on the brains of their volunteers. So, has anyone here ever practiced meditation for a length of time? Please share your experience with me. I can say for the 6 months I've been doing both things. It has been hard for me to tell if it's doing anything, but I can say that I've been feeling quite good, so I'm not going to change anything right now. Although today was a little rough. At the beginning, it was a little rainy. Moods and weather. When it got sunny out, I really did perk up quite a bit. So now we'll go into our main breakthrough in a moment. But first, I'd like to talk about VNS, which stands for vagus nerve stimulation. There are 2 vagus nerves, one on each side of the body. Both start at the base of the neck and run from the brainstem down to the chest. So for VNS, a pacemaker-like device, slightly bigger than a silver dollar, is surgically implanted in the chest. The device is called a pulse generator and is connected to the left vagus nerve via a wire threaded underneath the skin. Ouch. The pulse generator is programmed to deliver an electronic current in continuous cycles It stimulates a nerve for a set period of time and then pauses several minutes before the next pulse is delivered. So this is already a proven technology for depression. But it's only been used to treat depression in like the last decade. Unfortunately, and this kind of gets me a little annoyed, it's still considered a last resort for depression, and to make you use a bunch of worthless SSRIs and even go through ECT before getting this procedure done. Also, the butthead insurance companies won't pay for it, and I think it costs in the neighborhood somewhere around $30,000 to get the surgery. So it's definitely not cheap. Why does it seem to me that people with epilepsy don't have to jump through these kind of hoops? It frustrates me. It just seems like they don't consider depression a serious enough issue to warrant surgery. But breast implants? Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead. That's a serious issue. Get those breast implants. I mean, depression's not serious enough. But, if you need bigger boobs, that's definitely worth it. Am I wrong on this epilepsy thing or the breast implant thing? Please let me know. So studies have shown that VNS therapy can be a therapy that has long-term positive results for people with depression. In the study, 30% of the VNS group had a response compared to the non-VNS active treatment, which is only 13%. Furthermore, for early responders, it showed that a response of over 2 years in about 77% of the patients. One great thing about VNS is the effect builds over time, unlike other treatments which tend to lose effect over time. Also keep in mind that since they make you jump through all these hoops first, this is usually the people with the most severe and intractable sorts of depression. Because the treatment is so invasive, that's all it's considered for. Okay, so I know what you're saying. Wait a second here, Mick. It's overpriced, not covered by insurance, treatment that has essentially the same effect size as those worthless SSRIs, and it requires surgery. All true. So you may be right to complain about this, but that's where the breakthrough comes in. Now, this is a new thing. There are currently external VNS devices in clinical trials right now. Unfortunately, not for depression, but I've read that that's in their site. There's a company called electroCore, and they are creating a device called gammaCore. Their clinical development plan looks to expand the role of VNS in a wide variety of conditions, including anxiety, epilepsy, and depression, as well as for immune inflammatory conditions, gastroparesis, COPD, and asthma. As far as I know, I think their main research, and as far as the clinical trials now, is in headaches and cluster headaches. So here's a protocol. Now this protocol is for cluster headaches, but I assume it would be very similar for depression. Patients are recommended to administer 2 doses in the morning and 2 doses in the evening. Based on this protocol alone, each gammaCore device would last roughly 2 to 3 months to treat acute episodes of cluster headaches. Patients could deliver 1 to 3 additional doses of VNS therapy in succession at the onset of pain. Each dose is only 90 seconds, but the effects of the treatment last 5 to 8 hours. Unlike SSRIs, I love the fact that this type of treatment can be taken as needed. So one thing I kind of like about benzodiazepines, anti-anxiety type drugs, is they're very addictive, but you can take them in very moderate doses and have somewhat quality of life sometimes when you're suffering. So even DARPA's gotten in on this party. They're doing research with it for treatment of PTSD. Well, I guess not them, but they did give money to, they gave $6.4 million grant to Texas Biomedical Device Center on September 15th of 2015. The grant is part of DARPA's ElectRx program, which is short for electrical prescriptions, which aims to develop groundbreaking technologies that would use the body's innate neuropsychology to restore and maintain health. So one of the aims of this is to use the vagus nerve stimulator to help reduce fear and anxiety in soldiers who are exposed to traumatic experiences. And like I said, I think in a previous episode, fear, anxiety, depression, I don't know. I could be very wrong about this, but in my experiences, some would go hand in hand. All right, so I know this is a long shot, but has anybody out there ever had VNS surgery? an implant put in at all, I'd like to hear of your experience, and I may possibly share it on a future podcast. You can just send me an email. So, this kind of brings us to the breakthrough. Knowing all the stuff about VNS, external VNS, and how it's not available to the common man or woman, there's something out there called Nirvana. And not the band, it's a device, and they market it as a way to feel music. But in actuality, it's a form of external or non-invasive vagus nerve stimulation. And I consider this to be a breakthrough because it's something that's going to come out first, and it's going to be available widely to the public. And I mentioned another company that is doing something like this, and there are others as well, but this one is one I thought, like I said, would be available, and that's why I wanted to highlight it. Alright, so the company, two brothers, both physicians, had the idea to take the best part of a surgically implanted nerve stimulation device and provide it to users in a way that was entirely non-invasive. Doctors Richard and Daniel Cartledge formed Nirvana, as spelled Nervana, LLC, including medical and intellectual properties, experts, and engineers to make the dream a reality. This is from their website. The team created Nirvana, so it's kind of, hokey. But, it's okay. Nirvana, a breakthrough device that accesses the vagus nerve without surgery. I don't know that word. I'm not going to read it. And does so in harmony with tunes selected by the user. It says their ultimate goal and vision is to redefine the clinical paradigm in psychiatry in a similar way as medical devices have done in oncology, i.e. cancer, cardiology, heart, and other clinical areas. So they are located in Lake Worth, Florida. Now, this thing right now is available on Indiegogo. Now, it's not released. It's supposed to be released in June 2016, which as of this recording is 3 months away. So you can go and invest in that right now or check it out if you'd like. Obviously, it's drug-free. And this kind of goes to VNS. Obviously, you can't say this thing has potential uses for anything, legally. But VNS has uses in major depressive disorder, bipolar disorder, PSD, and I think I read a study that's trying it out for anxiety as well, but again, don't quote me on that. So the way they describe this thing to me sounds like a way of getting around saying it as a medical device. But really, that is just fine with me. I mean, the FDA takes way too long on medical breakthroughs. That could improve the quality of lives of so many people. So this is basically an MP3 player. It seems that the device delivers shocks to either left or the right vagus nerve. But I heard that it's a very bad idea to use it on your right vagus nerve because it's connected to your heart. And it's been said that while they don't know or think that it probably causes negative effects, it's probably not best to send shocks to your heart, unless it's needed, of course. So Nirvana is designed to emit a low-level electrical pulse to your ear canal, which stimulates the vagus nerve. The pulses are timed to match the beat of your music, and it causes the vagus nerve to signal the brain, which releases dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. There's also an ambient mode, which can be used at things like concerts, and it'll give you the same vagus nerve stimulation using the generator's built-in mic, so that dopamine releases even with live music, which could be kind of a fun thing. I know I read something saying does this replace, if you go to a concert, does it replace people doing drugs or something? But I don't think that question was quite answered. The Nirvana was at the CES this year, the Consumer Electronics Show, I believe was what it stands for. So Nirvana was at the CES this year. That stands for Consumer Electronics Show, I believe. It's in Las Vegas. A woman by the name of Amanda Guterman attended and tried this device. She said she felt, quote, happy sensations that we believe resulted from the trial. And one of the men she was with claimed that it cured his hangover. Now, that's something I could use. I tend to imbibe a little bit too much sometimes. Another woman with her said, I felt the electricity go into my arm, and everything was tingling there. But the best moment for me was afterwards, when I finished and stood up. I felt like I reached a personal high point. I couldn't stop smiling or laughing. I was like, oh wow. For about 5 minutes, my happiness level was a 10 out of 10. Then it got foggier. But I was still unusually happy for about an hour. An hour is not very long, but she just reported very happy feelings. It could be that it removes depression for a longer period of time. I mean, this is what they would call a healthy person. I just call a non-depressed person. And so it may work differently for depression. They mentioned that they will at some point be delving into the medical world device with this. Yeah, who knows if that's true? I guess it depends how well it sells. So as I mentioned earlier, it's currently on Indiegogo. So if you so desired, you could pick one up for the discount price of $279 because it will retail for $299 after the Indiegogo is finished. I probably will order one of these when it becomes available. So in time, I will be able to report my results back to you, the podcast listeners, in the event that I do purchase one. So, the hope of this. Does this give you guys any hope out there? Does it make you think, this is something I can try? Please let me know. Send me an email. Again, I'd like to hear from you guys. I hope that this new device can be an easy way for everyone to try VNS to see if it helps for them. Then, if they find it totally demolishes their depression, then perhaps going through a surgery would be worth the $30,000 because the butthead insurance companies won't cover it. Well, that is all the breakthroughs for now. I will give any updates on this as it becomes available. Take care, friends. And don't forget to contact me with ideas or suggestions for show topics, or if you just want to talk, at breakthroughindepression@gmail.com. Please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for listening, and have a wonderful day, guys.